Watch this video to unlock full body flexibility and mobility. Find out the best stretches to fix tight muscles and stiff joints. Learn the best exercises to get stronger and increase range of motion from head to toe. Here's how to become a back bridge pro. How much time do you spend stretching or doing mobility? Comment. I want to see what the calisthenics community is really doing. This video will demystify the back bridge, making the complex simple. We're going to break everything down joint by joint, head to toe. The back bridge demonstrates full body flexibility and mobility. All of the muscles on the front of the legs, torso, and shoulder need sufficient flexibility. A handful of joints play a key role in the back bridge. The main areas include the wrists, elbows, shoulders, spine, and hips. As you can clearly see, the bridge is a full body exercise. This means even our neck, knees, and feet are also involved. Demonstrating proficiency in the bridge isn't only about having flexible muscles. We need strength too. The posterior chain needs to be strong in order to create a global back bend. Our hip extensors, back extensors, shoulder flexors, and rotator cuff are all responsible for the posture. Let's take a look in further detail at the constituent aspects of the back bridge. First, we're going to talk about the wrist joints. Sufficient wrist extension movement in a bridge is a prerequisite. Around 90 degrees of wrist extension during weight bearing is plenty for most people. Our wrists are most challenged when pushing up from the floor. As we extend to an open bridge, the wrist burden decreases because the joint angle opens. Prior to a back bridge pro session, spend a few minutes mobilizing the wrist joint. Those of you who are having issues, pain, or discomfort, do this. Elevate the hands on blocks to artificially increase extension range. This allows you to continue improving other aspects of the bridge while your wrist joints adapt. Continuing on, let's talk elbow position and technique. We need to be training our bridge with straight elbows, full lockout. Elbow extension is non-negotiable during bridge training. Straight elbows direct overall movement and also posture. If struggling to lock out, limited by tightness, or lacking strength, regress with higher elevation to allow proper form. Beginners who are restricted overhead generally feel comfortable looking down. During your back bridge journey, expect the neck position to evolve. It's normal for the neck to progressively flex and the head to poke through. As our shoulders and spine open in the bridge, the neck shifts forwards to support our back bending mechanics. When we look at elite Olympic lifting, this head posture reflects the open demands we're dealing with in back bridge. A word of caution, the neck is an area which should move naturally and not be forced. There's no need to exaggerate the neck. Instead, direct your full effort to the rest of the body. The shoulders are seriously important for the back bridge. This joint has the most complexity of movement and muscles involved. We're going to need a combination of muscle length, muscle strength, and muscle stability. The back bridge requires what we call open shoulders, flexing the shoulders overhead. Open shoulders in the bridge is when the shoulder joints move past the wrists. We want to cue the scapula in 3 ways for opening the shoulders. Firstly, scapular elevation, shrugging the shoulders up towards the ears. This technique contributes to increased shoulder flexion for our bridge. Second, scapular retraction, pinching the shoulder blades together. This technique integrates the spine and shoulders for a more open shoulder and increased back bend. Third and last, twisting the elbows inwards. Shoulder internal rotation creates space within the scapula for the arms to move freely overhead. By shrugging up, pinching together, and twisting inwards, that's your 3Q checklist for shoulder opening. With the shoulders, we're training using 2 general objectives, stretching or strengthening. The lats are the main muscle which limit overhead mobility. This muscle spans from our arm to scapula to spine and also pelvis. In order to effectively stretch the lats, we need to get our arms overhead. Flexing and externally rotating the shoulder plus lateral flexion of the spine is optimal. This posture fully stretches the lat by moving the muscle's origin and insertion further away. Another key player is the triceps, specifically the long head. Tightness can limit our shoulders moving overhead. A stretch which both flexes the shoulder and elbow is effective for lengthening this area and also reducing tightness. The exercises in Back Bridge Pro move our shoulders through a full range of motion in a variety of ways. Because we're stretching in multiple directions, have confidence you're being comprehensive. Expect the surrounding soft tissues and joint capsule to acclimate. Stretching and increasing muscle length is only one piece of the puzzle. Bridge-ready shoulders require strength. Gaining strength and stability overhead is crucial for unlocking a robust back bridge. We're addressing this by training shoulder flexion and the rotator cuff. A key exercise is bridge push-ups or bridge holds. You're going to spend considerable time training with an elevated setup. We're reducing the mobility and flexibility demands of the lower body when raised. Elevation makes it possible to build brute strength overhead. This step improves our active shoulder flexion and also back bridge at large. A regression allows intensity to be modified and also permits a high specificity of practice. We're targeting all aspects of the scapula on the shortening side, improving shoulder flexion functionally for the back bridge. To comprehensively open the shoulders, we also train the lengthening side of shoulder flexion. We're using eccentric contractions to lower ourselves into deeper shoulder flexion. Controlled negatives through full range build strength as the muscles lengthen. We're integrating the spine into our shoulder opening. This is ideal for the back bridge. Progression addresses areas of tightness and weakness by moving through loaded shoulder flexion. The rotator cuff is a collection of muscles which stabilize the shoulder joint. We have the anterior cuff, which is responsible for shoulder internal rotation. We know how important internal rotation is for opening the shoulders overhead. We need sufficient range and strength through internal rotation during the back bridge. The anterior cuff exercises serve to increase stability through the front of the shoulder. Isolating internal rotation will help the shoulders move optimally during integrated bridge training. We also have the posterior cuff, which externally rotates the shoulder. We're strengthening the external rotators for stability and minimizing injury risk. This way, our body can withstand the demands of back bridge training. Let's take a look at the spine and torso. This is an important segment of the body for the back bridge. Here's why. Our spine needs plenty of extension from lumbar to thoracic. The mid to upper thoracic needs isolated attention in order to improve. We're going to dedicate time and effort mobilizing spine extension. Back Bridge Pro includes progressively challenging mobility exercises. We use a variety of loading methods for opening the stubborn T-spine for all levels. When it comes to optimally training the spine, twisting and bending the thoracic is helpful. Improving thoracic rotation and thoracic lateral flexion augments our thoracic extension. On the surface, rotation and lateral flexion might seem unrelated to bending backwards. However, restrictions in these directions will limit spine extension. We must improve in the transverse and frontal plane when it comes to training the bridge. This comprehensive mobility strategy increases sagittal plane extension to its potential. There's no skipping steps for the back bridge. We need active control. The spinal erectors on the back need to be isolated and improved directly. Particular focus is allocated to end range strength. The posterior chain muscles need to be trained and progressed at the limit of spine extension. Lastly, we have the ab muscles on the anterior torso. This area needs sufficient flexibility for us to bend backwards without midline restriction. By stretching the ab muscles, the rib cage can expand with an open thorax to bridge even further. Interestingly, our ab muscles need to be both flexible and also strong. Active back bending exercises increase our strength at length. Strong abs through range help us to traction the spine. The abs are responsible for evenly distributing forces throughout the spine during extension. Struggling to open the hips is a common back bridge problem. Feeling tight on the front of the thighs or lower abs is a subjective symptom. Not being able to fully extend the hips is a visual sign this segment needs work. For a flexible bridge from the stomach down, stretching the hip flexors is our homework. A notoriously tight hip flexor is the biarticular rectus femoris muscle, which crosses both the knee and the hip joints. This hip flexor is best stretched by bending the knee into flexion. The optimal way to stretch rectus femoris also incorporates a posterior pelvic tilt. When flexing our knee and extending the hip, the rectus femoris has no choice but to stretch and become more flexible. We also need to stretch the iliopsoas. This is the other group of hip flexor muscles. These originate on the pelvis and lumbar spine, extending to our thigh. Optimal stretching of this muscle group requires end-range hip extension. We need to drive our hips forward with a strong glute contraction to effectively stretch iliopsoas. While cueing a posterior pelvic tilt, bending backwards with the arm overhead really intensifies the stretch. The hip flexors need a variety of stretching exercises and protocols in order to respond. A combination of reps and isometric holds will be used. Lower intensity long holds and higher intensity short holds are featured in Backbridge Pro. If you're patient, consistent, and progressive, you're going to be the proud owner of open hips. Here's a summary of key Backbridge techniques. We want straight arms with the elbow pits twisting inwards. Our shoulders should be elevated, retracted, and also twisting inwards. The chest should be climbing the hill in order to force thoracic extension. We want hip extension by squeezing our posterior chain muscles. The legs should be straightening towards full knee extension to increase our back bend. We need to isolate before we integrate. Let me explain. The back bridge is a display of muscle flexibility, muscle strength, and joint mobility. You will not unlock the back bridge by only training the back bridge. That's a rookie mistake. If tightness or weakness exists in the shoulders, spine, or hips, that area is going to limit the back bridge. This is where isolation truly helps spark progress. By directly targeting deficits in the kinetic chain, the tight or weak areas will improve, and so will the bridge. We use a combination of strength and stretching exercises on both sides of the joint to do so. We conclude our session with back bridge compound exercises. Integration. This is the best order of training to improve our back bridge. Isolation followed by integration. Visit fitnessfaqs.com to become flexible and strong. Our programs provide the best of all worlds. I'm looking forward to helping you transform.